Welcome to Karma Chronicles. Please like the video and subscribe. Let's begin.
I was sweating through the armpits of a Goodwill blazer that didn't quite fit right. Shoulders a little too wide, sleeves a little too short. But it was clean, pressed, and for the first time in a while, I felt like I actually looked like someone worth hiring. Name's Marissa James. I'm 29 years old and I live in Ridgeview, Ohio. Not much happens here except factory layoffs and Friday night football. But today I was interviewing for a job at Harrison Auto, the biggest damn repair shop in the county. The lobby smelled like oil and burnt coffee. The chairs squeaked when I sat down, and my knee bounced like I had Red Bull in my bloodstream. I clutched my manila folder with my resume, ASE certification, and the one letter of recommendation I could still get from a retired guy I used to assist in high school. Quick note, before we start, how's your day going and where are you joining from? I'd prepped all night. Safety protocols, handling angry customers, managing rush jobs, you name it. I'd worked under the hood since I was 16, but this was the first time I wasn't applying as someone's backup. This was for a full-time mechanic tech spot. My own bay, my own hours. Finally. Marissa James? A guy in navy coveralls called from the office door. I jumped up so fast my purse almost smacked the chair behind me. He walked me into a back office, plain desk, fan humming in the corner. There were two men in there. The shop manager, Rick, mid-40s, strong build, firm handshake, and his lead tech, Jalen, who barely looked up from a tablet. Rick nodded at my folder. So, walk me through your experience. I've been turning wrenches since I was 16, I said. Started in high school, then full-time assisting after graduation. Most of it was brake jobs, oil changes, diagnostic stuff. I can read codes, pull engines, weld frames, whatever you need. He raised an eyebrow. You ever been in charge of your own lift? Not officially, I admitted, but I ran solo a lot when my boss was sick. Kept the place moving. Clients didn't notice a difference. Jalen finally looked up. What's your process when a customer says the brakes are squealing but nothing shows on diagnostics? Road test first. Could be the pads vibrating. I don't just trust the scan tools. Gotta listen to the car. I met his eyes. He gave a short nod. Rick scribbled something. How do you handle pressure when we're backed up 3 bays deep and a customer's yelling at the desk? Stay calm. Communicate. Fix what I can and don't make promises I can't keep. People just want to be heard. The interview ran 15 minutes, maybe 20. By the end, Rick stood and offered his hand again. We'll be in touch soon. Could use someone with your drive around here. I walked out of there with my head held high and my stomach doing somersaults. On the way home, the sun hit my windshield just right, like some sign that things were finally about to change. But that feeling didn't last. Not for long. By the time I pulled into the driveway, the sky had gone dull gray. The porch light was off, which was weird. Mom always kept it on when she knew I'd be back late. Said it was polite, even if I was pushing 30. The house looked off. I couldn't place it at first, but when I stepped inside, it hit me. The curtains in the living room, usually wide open to let in the evening light, were pulled shut, tight. The air was still, heavy like a church right before a funeral. Mom, I called out, keeping my voice light. You won't believe how the interview went. No answer. Not even the TV buzzing in the background like usual. I stepped farther in, setting my purse on the arm of the couch. My boots echoed a little too loud on the laminate floor. I think they're gonna call me back, I said, like I was talking to someone behind a closed door. Still nothing. Rick, the manager, he seemed impressed. I started walking down the hallway toward my room. That's when I saw it. A brand new deadbolt, shiny brass, drilled into my bedroom door. I stopped cold. What the hell is this? I said out loud, staring at it like maybe it would blink or something. Mom? My voice cracked a little. Why is there a lock on my... She appeared at the end of the hallway like a ghost. Same faded nightgown, same blank stare. You need to leave, Marissa, she said flatly. No emotion, no flinch, just ice. What? You don't live here anymore, she said. We've talked about this. We've never talked about this, I snapped. My heart started pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. What the hell is going on? My brother stepped into view behind her, grinning like it was comedy hour. Phone already out, recording. Say hi to TikTok, Maris, family eviction special, he laughed. You're filming this? I yelled. Are you serious right now? He kept rolling. Then Dad came up behind them, arms crossed, not saying a word, just watching, like a bouncer at some sick show. Mom pointed toward the front door. "You've had plenty of time to get your life together. It's time you stopped relying on us." I couldn't move at first, my body just locked up. But then something in me clicked. That old burnt-out flame in my chest lit up again. "Fine," I said. "You want me gone? I'm gone." I walked back to the living room, pulled my old duffel from the closet, and stuffed it with whatever I could grab. Toothbrush, clothes, my phone charger. They just stood there, watching like I was stealing from them. "Don't take anything that's not yours," Mom snapped. I looked her dead in the eyes. "What exactly is mine in this house?" She didn't answer. As I zipped the bag shut, my brother said under his breath, "Don't forget to slam the door on your way out." Real dramatic. I ignored him. When I walked out, the porch light clicked on behind me, probably on a timer. I didn't look back, didn't cry, didn't ask why. I just gripped the steering wheel like it was the only thing in the world I could still hold on to, and drove. I drove until the road sign stopped making sense. No music, no GPS, just the sound of tires grinding the asphalt and my heartbeat thudding in my ears. I didn't cry. Couldn't. It was like my body locked down every emotion just to keep the car straight. It was nearly midnight when I pulled into Lena's complex, run-down little brick building behind a gas station off Route 10. Her car was there, so I didn't bother texting. I grabbed my duffel, walked up the creaky stairs, and knocked once. The door opened a crack. Lena didn't say anything at first, just looked at me, eyes half asleep but alert. I stood there in the hallway, hair a mess, mascara smudged, hands shaking. She opened the door wider and stepped aside. "Couch is clean. Bathroom's yours. You hungry?" I shook my head and stepped in. The lights were low. The air smelled like laundry and leftover Chinese. Safe, warm. I dropped the bag beside the couch and collapsed onto the cushions without a word. Lena sat across the room, tucking her legs under her, watching but not prying. We didn't talk. She didn't ask. She just existed there with me, and that was enough. After a while, I pulled my hoodie tighter around me and unzipped the side pocket of my bag. My fingers brushed over a stiff, folded envelope, the one I hadn't touched in years. It was from my Aunt Carol. She died 5 years ago, liver cancer. She always saw me, even when no one else bothered. When I was 19, she handed me the envelope and said, "Don't open this unless things get really bad." And I mean really bad, honey. I'd laughed at the time, thought it was some motivational speech in writing. But now, sitting there in someone else's apartment with my whole world burned down behind me, this was it. This was really bad. I turned the envelope over. The flap had yellowed, but the seal held tight. Her handwriting on the front said just my name, nothing else. I slid my finger under the seal and opened it. 2 pages, handwritten in blue ink. "Marissa, if you're reading this, I'm guessing something unforgivable just happened. I'm sorry. I wish I could be there in person, but this letter is the best I could do. You need to know something. Years ago, I made sure that a portion of our family's properties, the lake cabin, and a share in the auto shop, were put in your name. You won't see your name on paper because your father and brother handled the filings after I got sick. But I had my own lawyer. He has the truth. There's also money. A trust. I set it up for you because I always knew they'd never do right by you. You've worked too hard for too little for too long. Call Mr. Gibson. He'll know what to do. Love you always, Aunt Carol." I stared at the pages like they might disappear. My chest tightened, not from grief, but something else. Something harder. They'd known. All of them. They knew, and they kept it from me. Years of unpaid help, gas money I never saw again, being talked to like I was freeloading trash. But not her. Carol had my back, even from the grave. I folded the letter slowly, smoothed the crease, and slipped it back in the envelope like it was glass. Lena hadn't moved. I looked up and met her eyes. "You okay?" she asked, voice soft. I nodded once. "I will be." Next morning, I sat on her front steps with my phone and coffee and dialed the number scrawled at the bottom of Carol's letter. A man answered. "Gibson Law." "Hi," I said, clearing my throat. "My name's Marissa James. I think you were my aunt's attorney." "Carol Mason." Pause. Yes, I remember Carol very well. "She said, you'd know what to do." His voice dropped, serious now. "Then I think it's time we meet." By noon, I was sitting in a quiet office that smelled like printer paper and lemon disinfectant. Gibson Law was tucked between a dentist and a funeral home on Main Street. Real small town setup, but the second I walked in, I knew this guy wasn't playing around. Mr. Gibson stood when I entered. He was tall, white hair, glasses that made him look like a Sunday school teacher. But his handshake was steady, and his voice was calm, like someone used to sorting out chaos. "Marissa James," he said, motioning to a seat across from his desk. "I've been expecting your call for a long time." "I wasn't expecting to make it," I said, sitting down. "Carol said you'd know what to do." "I do," he nodded. "And I'm sorry it took a situation like this to bring you here." He opened a thick manila file with my name handwritten across the top. Inside were stacks of paper, some stamped, some signed, and one that had Aunt Carol's looping cursive across the bottom. "She left everything in order," he said, flipping slowly through the pages. "Your aunt set up a trust in your name back in 2019. It includes the lake cabin in her family's name and a 30% ownership share in Harrison Auto." I blinked. 30%? Of my family's business? He nodded. "She was a silent partner. Put her stake in your name 2 years before she passed." My stomach dropped. "So my dad and brother, they knew?" "They did," he said, voice even. "They were notified when the paperwork was finalized, but they never disclosed anything to you." I sat back in the chair, throat tightening. My family had spent years watching me struggle. Ride shares to work, patch holes in my shoes, eat ramen 4 nights a week. And they never said a word. Mr. Gibson kept going. "The trust has also earned passive income from shop profits over the last 5 years, roughly $53,000, none of which you've received." Jesus, I stared at the table. "And they've just been pocketing it all this time?" He closed the folder. "Correct, but that can be rectified. The documents are strong. Your aunt had foresight, and fortunately, she chose someone thorough." I looked up at him. "So what now? Do I sue them?" "There are 2 options," he said. "One, we send them a formal letter. Claim what's yours quietly and avoid public exposure. It'll be fast and clean, but they'll get away without full accountability." "And the second?" He leaned back in his chair. "We challenge them directly, demand back pay, force a full audit of the business, and freeze any future profit withdrawals until your share is secured. It'll get messy. They'll fight it, but we have the upper hand." I sat in silence for a second, not because I was unsure, because I was furious. All those years of them treating me like dead weight while they cashed checks with my name on them. All those times they made me feel like a burden. Number. They didn't get a clean exit. "I want to fight," I said. "Every penny, every inch. I want them to know I'm not just walking away again." He nodded like he expected that. "Then I'll start drafting the claim today." He handed me a copy of the original trust, already tabbed for signature. I took the pen from his hand and signed my name across the bottom, without hesitation. When I stood up to leave, Mr. Gibson looked at me one more time. "You're not alone in this, Marissa. Not anymore." I didn't smile. Didn't need to. I walked out of that office and into the heat of the afternoon like someone finally walking with both feet on solid ground. I didn't even make it to the end of the block before my phone lit up. 1 new voicemail, Dad, 2 missed calls, Nolan, 3 texts, Mom. I didn't answer. Just kept driving, eyes forward, one hand on the wheel, the other ready to toss my phone out the window if it buzzed again. Then came the first message. Nolan, of course. "Yo, Maris." That thing the other night, that was just Mom being dramatic, all right? It wasn't serious. Chill out. You know how she gets. I stared at the screen, jaw tight. No apology, no regret. Just acting like none of it mattered. Like kicking me out and filming it was some family sitcom moment I was overreacting to. Then came Dad's voicemail. "Marissa, I heard you're stirring things up. This doesn't need to get out of hand. You're still part of the family. Let's not drag our name through the mud over a misunderstanding. Be smart." A misunderstanding. That was rich. Then Mom's text popped up. "Please don't do this, sweetheart. We're family. Let's talk. I miss you." No acknowledgement of what they did. Just that empty, guilt-laced crap she always pulled when she wanted to smooth things over without taking responsibility. The texts kept coming, one after another, some long, some short. Nolan even sent a stupid meme halfway through. Like joking about it would make me drop the whole thing. I didn't respond to any of it. Just opened the email thread I had with Mr. Gibson, attached screenshots, and forwarded everything. By the time I parked back at Lena's place, I'd sent him over 15 messages. I added a note at the bottom. Let me know if this counts as harassment yet. I stared at the screen a few seconds longer, feeling the old part of me start to creep back in. The part that wanted to call them, to hear them say sorry, to pretend this could all be fixed with one big family sit down. But that part of me, she'd been used, lied to, treated like a damn servant in her own house while her name sat on ownership papers they hid from her. They thought I'd roll over, that I'd see one text from mom or hear dad's voice and forget everything. Like I was still the desperate girl who just wanted to be accepted. Not this time. I turned the phone off completely and dropped it in my bag. I stood up from the car, walked up the stairs, and opened the apartment door to silence. Lena looked up from the kitchen table, gave me one quick glance, then slid a mug of coffee toward the edge. You good? She asked. I nodded once, firm. Getting there. 2 nights later, the knock came. It was sharp and loud, like they meant to rattle the whole damn building. I froze halfway through folding my laundry, hands clenched around a towel, heart thudding like I was standing in traffic. I peeked through the peephole, all 3 of them. Dad in a windbreaker, arms stiff at his sides. Mom behind him, mouth tight. Nolan leaned against the wall like he was too cool to be bothered, but still dragged along for the show. I didn't open the door. I hit the intercom instead. What do you want? Dad stepped up, his voice already raised. Open the door, Marissa. We're not doing this through emails and lawyers. Then you're wasting your time, I said, because that's the only way you're speaking to me. You need to stop this now before it gets out of hand, he snapped. I stared through the peephole. He looked like he was trying to hold himself back, but his jaw was twitching, and his eyes darted around like he was checking for witnesses. You've made your point, he continued. Now come out here so we can talk like adults. I pressed the intercom again. You threw me out. Remember that? You locked my room. You watched me pack my stuff like I was garbage and didn't say a word. That was your chance to talk. From behind him, Mom stepped forward, voice sugary and cracked around the edges. Sweetheart, please. I didn't want things to happen that way. We were overwhelmed. Things got emotional. You told me I wasn't welcome. It was heat of the moment, she said quickly. We didn't mean it. Yeah, well, I said, my voice low, steady. The lock said otherwise. Nolan let out a breathy laugh. This is ridiculous. You're acting like we murdered somebody. Get over it. Back off, Nolan, I said sharp. You filmed it, posted it. You're the last person who should be talking about respect. He rolled his eyes and kicked the toe of his shoe against the wall. You're still being dramatic. Dad cut back in, voice louder now. This is family business, not a courtroom issue. You're turning your back on us over money? No, I said. I'm turning my back because none of you ever thought I'd stand up for myself. You're gonna regret this, he warned. No, I said again, firm, clear. What I am gonna do is call building security if you don't walk away right now. There was a long pause. Nobody moved. Mom stared at the door like she was trying to see through it. Please, Marissa, we can fix this. Just let us in. Her tone had changed. There was no warmth, just guilt, coiled up like a threat. No, I said one last time. I kept my hand on the intercom button until I heard their footsteps start down the hall. No more words, just silence and retreating shoes on tile. I waited a full minute before unlocking the deadbolt and checking. They were gone. I shut the door, locked it again, and leaned back against the frame, my whole body buzzing. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I just breathed. Deep, steady. They weren't used to being told no. And now they were finally hearing it loud and clear. A week after they showed up at my door, Lena shoved her phone in my face at breakfast. You need to see this, she said, eyes wide. It was Nolan. A screen recording from someone's TikTok. The video he filmed the night they kicked me out. The one where he laughed like it was all some prank show. But now it had captions. Angry ones. Stitch after stitch of creators dragging him for being cruel, heartless, entitled. One woman said, imagine treating your sister like trash and then posting it for attention. He's done. Another, this girl deserves everything coming to her, and her family better pray she doesn't take it all. The comments were brutal. Hashtags calling him out. People tagging his sponsors. And I knew how he made money. Gear reviews, truck parts, brand deals. His face was practically a logo. I clicked through a few more. His follower count had dropped by tens of thousands. One sponsor released a public statement. We've ended our partnership with Nolan James following recent events that do not align with our values. I sat back in my chair, coffee cooling in my hands. It didn't feel good, not exactly, but it didn't feel bad either. It just felt right. 2 days later, Mr. Gibson called. "They're bleeding, Marissa," he said. "Your father lost a parts contract with 2 local dealerships. The cabin's sitting empty, and word's gotten out about the trust. Some of the clients don't want to be associated with the shop anymore." I didn't say anything. I just listened. "They tried to shuffle some of the profits around last month," he continued, "but we blocked it. The financials are frozen under court review until this is resolved." It wasn't just about the money. It was about the walls finally closing in on them. The consequences, the ones I'd carried alone for years, now falling squarely in their laps. And that's when the second wave of messages started. Nolan sent a text. "Hope you're happy. You ruined everything. My channel's tanking because of your little pity party." My father emailed Mr. Gibson directly and CC'd me. "This has gone far enough. We should settle this in-house and stop making a public scene." My mom went back to texting me at night. "I don't know why you're doing this. We've always loved you. We just had a tough moment. Please don't let this tear us apart." Tough moment. That's what they were calling years of manipulation and stolen income. Every message followed the same pattern. Guilt, then blame, then guilt again. Like they were throwing darts in the dark, hoping one would land. But none of them landed. I didn't respond. I forwarded the ones that mattered to Gibson and deleted the rest. One night, Lena came into the living room while I was scrolling and asked, "You okay?" I nodded. "Yeah. I just didn't think it would all unravel this fast." "They deserved it," she said, no hesitation. "They did." I looked up. "And they're still trying to crawl their way back in." She tossed me a bag of chips. "Then shut the door tighter." I leaned back, cracked the bag open, and stared at my phone as it buzzed again. New voicemail. "Mom." I didn't listen to it. I just saved it to a folder I titled Evidence. I wasn't looking for revenge. I wasn't trying to destroy them. I just wanted the truth out. I wanted the life I was owed, the one they tried to keep just out of reach. And now? Now they could feel it slipping away. The conference room smelled like coffee and old carpet. It was stark and cold, just like everything else about this damn situation. I sat at one end of a long, polished table, my hands folded tight in front of me. Across from me was the family's lawyer, Mr. Jameson, a greasy-looking guy in his late 50s with a permanent scowl and a tie that was just a little too flashy. He slid a paper across the table without a word. I didn't move for a second, just stared at it. "The offer is simple," he said, voice like he was reading from a script. "We're willing to transfer the lake cabin to you outright. In exchange, you'll drop all future claims to the business and any further legal actions." I glanced at the paper. They were offering me the cabin, the lake cabin, a property that was worth something, but nowhere near what they owed me. A consolation prize, really. I let the silence drag for a beat, then shook my head slowly. "Number, I want more." Mr. Jameson raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me?" "I'm not walking away with just a cabin," I said, sitting up straighter. "I want the back pay, all of it. The earnings from the auto shop, everything that was held from me." His lips twitched, like he was trying to hide a smirk. "You're asking for over $50,000, and you're not even entitled to it." I leaned forward, not breaking eye contact. "I'm entitled to it because it's mine. It was never yours to keep, and you know it." There was a shift in the room. I could feel Mr. Jameson's irritation building. He sat back, folding his arms, eyes narrowing. "You're demanding restitution, a third-party manager for the shop's assets, and a full acknowledgement of financial mismanagement. You're asking for a hell of a lot." "I'm asking for what's mine," I said, calm but firm. "What's rightfully mine, and what you've been trying to hide from me for years." Just then, the door opened behind me. My father walked in, looking furious, his face already red. Nolan trailed behind him, holding his phone in his hand, probably ready to record the final scene for whatever story he was crafting. "I'm not signing any of this," my dad growled. "This is extortion, Marissa. Plain and simple." I didn't flinch. I didn't look at him. I stayed focused on the paper in front of me. "It's not extortion, Dad. It's me finally getting what you've been trying to keep from me." He slammed his palm on the table. "You're our family. You don't get to destroy us for your little tantrum. This is about a business, Marissa, not some personal vendetta. I'm not destroying anything. You've been doing that on your own for years, I said, my voice sharp. You want to talk about a tantrum? You think the way you've treated me isn't exactly what's destroyed this family? Look at the business, look at your sponsors, look at your reputation. It's crumbling, and I'm not the one who lit the match. His face went pale for a second, but then the anger came back, boiling over. I'm not signing anything, Marissa. I won't let you blackmail me. I stood up, moving to the side of the table, my gaze fixed on his. Then you can explain that to the judge. Because we both know you're the one who's been blackmailing me all these years. Mr. Jameson shifted uncomfortably in his chair, clearly sensing the tension. He stood up too and cleared his throat. Perhaps we should take a moment. No, I said quickly. I'm not waiting. I've made my demands clear. If you want to negotiate, fine, but not with me. You're negotiating with my lawyer now. Everything goes through him. For a second, it looked like my father might throw the file across the room, but instead he sat back down, seething. Nolan shifted his weight from foot to foot, watching like he was waiting for me to break. But I didn't. I stayed still. I stayed steady. Mr. Jameson cleared his throat again, this time a little more nervously. We can offer an agreement to your terms, acknowledgement of financial mismanagement, and we can consider appointing a third-party manager for the auto shop's assets. As for the back pay, we will discuss what can be done, but the total sum may be negotiated. I gave him a sharp look. I'm not negotiating. You either give me everything I've asked for, or we take this to court, and we'll see how much of your family's dirty laundry the public wants to air. The lawyer's face hardened. After a long, silent stare, he sighed, defeated. We'll draw up the paperwork. I stood there, holding the edge of the table, breathing in deep. The room felt heavy with everything that had been said, everything that had been needed to be said. And then, without another word, I turned and walked out, my head held high, my heart full of something I couldn't quite name. Maybe it was relief. Maybe it was power. Maybe it was both. But I wasn't going to back down. Not now. Not ever. The final documents were signed, and just like that, it was over. The money that had been withheld for years was finally mine. The lake cabin, the property, the business shares, all legally transferred into my name. I didn't celebrate. I didn't need to. I felt settled, solid, like the ground beneath my feet finally felt like it belonged to me. I moved into a small apartment on the second floor of an old building, 2 blocks away from downtown. Nothing fancy. The carpet was a little worn, and the walls could have used a coat of paint, but it was mine. No one could tell me I didn't belong there. No one could knock on the door and tell me I wasn't welcome. I sat in the quiet, sipping coffee at a table I'd bought secondhand. I could hear the neighbors, the faint hum of traffic outside, but inside, it was mine. The clutter of old boxes, clothes that still needed to be sorted, didn't matter. It was peace. It was mine. Months passed, and the weight of everything, the fight, the stress, the exhaustion, faded like a storm losing its strength. I wasn't happy every day, but I was at peace. I'd reclaimed my life, my voice, and in some strange way, I had finally found a version of myself I could respect. I didn't need their approval. I never had. Then one day, I found a letter in my mailbox. The handwriting was unmistakable. It was from Mom. I knew it before I even opened it. I could feel the heaviness of it, that old pull in my chest, the guilt mixed with hope that she always wrote in. She never once asked for forgiveness, just asked me to come back, to forget everything and move on. No mention of what they'd done, no apology, just the old familiar plea to let the past go. I sat on the couch, the letter in my hands, staring at it for a long time. Her words were nothing new, the same pattern of manipulation, guilt, as if they could erase everything with a few lines on paper. I didn't cry, didn't feel sorry. I folded the letter back up slowly, my hands steady, and tucked it into the drawer of my small wooden table. The past was gone. There was nothing left for me to look back on. And that was it. The story of them was over. The story of me had just begun. I didn't have to answer. I didn't have to go back. What I had now was everything I'd fought for, and no one could take it away. I leaned back in my chair, breathing in the quiet, and finally felt that space inside of me, the one they'd filled with doubt and anger, settle into something I could keep. And for the first time in my life, I felt free.